Welcome back to the Wolf of Queen Street podcast series. Welcome back to the video or the audio series. But before we get started today, I just want to do a shout out to my sponsors. Job Search QLD. Job Search Queensland is a company that helps people find their ideal job, gives you the skills that you need sometimes just to be successful at that interview stage or what to prepare to go into an interview. Job Search Queensland is a company that is helping people in a hard time post-COVID to give them the skills to take that next step in their career. And definitely the place to go when they give you a free, no obligation assistance in what you're looking at. And you can find them at jobsearchqld.com. But today, bringing on to my show, I'm pretty excited to bring on Marie Temnyuk. And I met Marie just recently on social media, as most of I do the people out there. And she brought forward, and we were discussing this 8 steps or this 8-step process as you go through about growing the success in your business. And I said to Marie, I would love to bring her on here and have a discussion about these 8 steps that she follows and her journey has been across, because I think everyone can resonate, whether you listen or watching, about taking some of these key insights and using that against your own business, potentially if you want to launch a business or depending if you're already in an established business. So before we get into it, welcome, Marie.
Hi, Lawrence. It's a pleasure to be featured on your podcast. So I look forward to having a really cool conversation with you, and hopefully other people will be able to relate to my experience and take away some learnings and save time and money and not repeating what I've done.
Totally, that's always. I mean, to anyone that's watching at the moment, if you look at me and go, Lawrence, your headphones are a little bit different. You're wearing gaming headphones. Yes, one of my kids has taken my professional headphones, so I'm using Xbox headphones at the moment, my kids' versions, because I couldn't find it and I don't know where it is. So yes, you can laugh at me later. But getting back to the 8 steps, what I want to actually do to everyone is I want to read out these amazing 8 steps so you can see what we're going to talk about over the next sort of 40 minutes. And then I'll let Marie go through them and we'll chat through them step by step, because I think, I said to her, there's one of the ones here is one of my personal favorites I've actually ever heard. But pretty much the 8 steps read as the follows. Don't compare your chapter 1 to another chapter 20. Treat it as a job, work consistent hours. Treat your customers like VIPs. Power of your brand and reputation. Robust financial structures. This the next one's the best one I've heard in a long time, and I love this one. Run your business like you want to sell it or list it. Do the hard thing and do it consistently. And finally, get rid of what is not working for your business fast. So Marie, that's amazing steps. And I'm sure there's a big story behind and learnings and everything else. You know, so if we go straight into the first one, you talk about don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
Yeah, so, what happened to me is when I started my property investment consulting business, Diamond Property Group, 5.5 years ago, I was looking at my competitors who were in their 6-year of business, 10-year of business. And for me, this was my, this was kind of like the ultimate goal. And I felt like I had to get there pretty fast. And I was so confident at first in my own abilities to get there. But then what happened is I didn't get there fast enough. And for the first year, I had my ass kicked left, right, and center. I've never failed so badly in my life before. Before I started my own business, I was always employed. I was getting really good jobs. I was earning really reasonable income. And I was always achieving my goals. And then that stopped. And then what I realized where I was going wrong is that I wasn't enjoying the process. I wasn't willing to go through it step by step. I thought I could just skip 20 steps and end up being, on the cover of Forbes. Imagine my ego back then.
Yeah.
I definitely needed to eat some humble pie in my life. And I did. And the first year was absolutely horrible. I've lost so many deals. I didn't make any money whatsoever. But it really taught me to do things step by step and have a sort of tunnel vision focus, where you just focus on one thing in front of you. And once you do that thing, you go to the next thing. And like, I would just really recommend that, enjoy the process, like love the process, give that love to your clients or to your customers. And then if you're putting enough effort and enough love, eventually it will flourish and you will get to that, chapter 20, your business will become more established. Because at the moment, I think the issue that we've got is that, especially on social media, we see this amazing business owners, like Bezos or Grant Cardone, and they fly private jets. And we're like, well, that's what we're going to have. And then it doesn't happen. And you go, oh, I suck. I'm so bad at it. I want to quit. Well, no, you just have to go through that same process like they've done. And then you'll get there. So just like keep your head in check, basically.
I totally agree with that. You see it all the time, people that have instant success, very, very few of them can handle and keep that. Because if you get something instantly that you're not expecting or not have worked through the process, this is very similar to people that become multimillionaires in the lotto. Very few of them still have the money because they didn't go through the process of learning how to manage it. Same with the business. I didn't learn to make the mistakes and going through those loopholes. So I don't know how to pivot and change. It's great that you mentioned, Bezos or Cardone or anyone like that. Those people out there, Elena Cardone as well, have been doing it for 20, 25 years. And for 20 out of the 25 years, they were nobodies. And it took 20 years, and then finally they break it in and everyone looks at them at the moment and goes, oh, geez, I wish I could be them. Yeah, you can be them if you do that hard work for 20, 30 years and learn that process. And we've got to give that time. We're rushing business, or we're rushing our brands, or in everything we're trying at the moment too quickly to try and become viral tomorrow. Believe you me, if you become viral tomorrow, you're not going to know how to manage it. You're not going to know what to do next, or where to go and who to contact, Even if your biggest business mentor stepped in your door right now, while you're listening or while you're watching, wherever you are, if someone stepped in right now and said, okay, I'm here, I'm the person you've been wishing to see, you would not be ready to sit down and have a business meeting with them and be prepared, because it's just stuff that we've got to take time and work through.
Yes. And, Lawrence, I was actually quite lucky that I've got a really amazing business mentor in my life, and he happens to be my partner, whose name is Craig. He's another business owner. Sorry, he's another partner in the business as well. And he is very successful in his businesses. And so when I started the business, he actually kept telling me that same lesson that I'm trying to pass on to others. He's like, Maria, for the next 2 to 3 years, you're not going to make a lot of money.
Yep.
The businesses that are going to be big and they're going to have like sustained growth, they just get there step by step. But I didn't believe him. I didn't want to believe that I wasn't going to make money for a few years. Like it did happen a bit sooner than 2 or 3 years, but he was so right. Yeah.
Totally. I want to go into the next point you talk about. You say, treat it as a job, work consistent hours. Sorry to interrupt the current show, but just to let you know, if you're enjoying what you've seen, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. So next time another episode comes out, you'll be able to see it first. Back to the show.
Yes. So this is something that I do notice amongst people who are probably sort of like doing their first 6 to 12 months in the business and they're not getting a lot of traction. And this is another mistake that I've done, is that, like when you work for someone else, right, you go and you smash out 40 hours at least, right? Yep. And then if you want extra promotion or extra money, you go 50 hours, 60 hours. When people get into their own businesses, they don't have a boss anymore to tell them to work 40 hours. No one is watching you. No one is watching over your shoulder.
Yep.
You don't have to report to anyone but yourself. And so what I'm noticing is that people, they actually don't do the hours required. they, but you actually have to do even more hours than you did back at your work to succeed, because now you're no longer doing just like one part of the company. You have to do everything. You're in charge of your marketing, product, manufacturing, service, customers, sales, websites. Like there's so much. So definitely like treat it as a job. Like if you want to start seeing progress, you've got to do the hours. Absolutely. And that's something I've learned, because I remember, like, again, in the first year, like a couple of weeks would go by and I would hardly do any work on the business. And I would just make excuses like, oh, I was too busy with the kids, or I helped my partner with something. And then I had to stop doing that and actually, and this goes back to that point number one, where you just go step by step, you do one thing after another, you put in the hours, you put in the effort, and there is no shortcut.
Yeah. I'll put my hand up and admit I'm horribly bad at this one. My mind runs at 100 miles an hour, and I'm always thinking of next opportunities. To anyone that knows me personally and sat in business meetings or anything like that, discussions, they normally hate me, not from a bad way, but we normally come out and I'm going, oh, here's 20 ideas and here's 15 things we should do and here's 10 things we should do this way. This will be relatable. And it's like, yeah, great. And a month later, it's still the 15 ideas because nothing's been put on paper, or, a lot of times it's not working towards it. And it is a hard one because, you want to see things moving, but you have to do that dirt work. And I've seen the experience myself with someone like me that's over energetic and over looking at future folks and the big things. If there's days I make myself sit down from an old school tactic and go, okay, Lawrence, here's the 8 things you got to get out of today, and here's the 8 things you got to do out tomorrow, and force myself to get through it. Funny enough, even that small meticulous things actually makes a benefit to the business. If it's as much as, hey, reach out to 3 people and respond to them on an email, even if it's something that you're not interested in, it's doing stuff and it's still getting your name out there in the business world. Post content on social media, call or cold calling or something like that. You'll be surprised at how those 5 or 6 steps you don't really want to do, and and if you do it in those hours, will make a difference.
Absolutely, yes.
So the next one you go on to, and I think a lot of people know this, but sometimes we forget about this, and it's talking about treat your customers like VIPs.
Yeah. So this was one of my, foundations of the business. This was the whole motivation why I wanted to start my own business, because I didn't like how other companies in the industry were treating their clients. Some were good, some were not so good, but I just wanted to give that consistent service. So I think, without the customers, we don't have a business. And, we work with clients from so many different walks of life. We've got clients earning, $50,000 a year to $500,000 a year, but everyone gets the same service. And so the thing is, treating your clients VIPs, it doesn't mean that, you've got to lay a red carpet for them, but it's actually small touches that can make a huge difference. And this is something I notice in so many businesses. Like, I go to a beautician, for example, and let's say it's like either a home-based beautician, or they've got their small studio, they're hiring a small room, and like they don't even offer like water, or they don't offer tea, so like try and think of the ways that you can make your customers' experience nicer. Like I believe that, people connect a lot over food. So for the first 2 years, in order to get the sales, I was feeding my clients, like, always feeding my clients, buying them lunches, like for example, our strategy meeting is a couple of hours long, and they come in, after work. So there's always snacks. Like, whenever I have a meeting with either customers or partners or whatever, there's always coffee being offered. Like think about the environment where you bring your clients. And the thing is, like, I didn't have a lot of money when I started. Yep. And this was actually there's a really funny story. I remember when I had my first strategy meeting, right? And I just moved into the new office like 2 days before that. And what happened is my partner, he gave me a little bit of money as a birthday present. And what I did is I went and I had to buy a heater with that money. And then I went to the supermarket, and they had this like coffee machines, and they would give them out for free if you buy like 6 packs of coffee. So I was like, I stocked up on coffee and got this really cool coffee machine for my office, because at that point we didn't have a cafe nearby. And then in order to make my little coffee setup quite fancy, I went to Nespresso and got like Nespresso coffee cups. And so I think I spent like my whole Thursday morning basically on just setting up my office with flowers and nice things, because I just didn't want to take chances. I know sometimes I think you can get away with doing less. And it's like a saying, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Quite often you can get away, but that's when you're already established and people can just feel that confidence. But when you're starting out, give them, the coffee, nice touches. Another thing that I cannot, underestimate is the communication. Like, way too many people are really bad at communication. Like, customers want information fast. Like, one rule that I always have, and something that I train my staff on, is we don't want clients to be coming to us with the questions. Like, we need to be giving them the information before they even have the questions. Clients should never chase us for any updates where things are at, because that means we are too slow. And that's going to create a little bit of difficulty in the process. Like, again, why take those chances?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's a lost trade and skill about appreciating people and people's company. Obviously, COVID took a lot of the personal touch away, the personal moment. So it's something we've got to work a lot harder on in when we are in front of people, is to make that difference, because we're so digitized, and excuse me, I hate that word, to pronounce it, because we're looking at our screen so much and we get in so much information. Sometimes it's hard to actually break that, to break that and get someone else's attention. And it can be as subtle. And this is a very big approach that I use, and anyone else, feel free to do it. And anyone that's in my circle will know I do it, because I do it to a lot of my students or people. Is I will go out of my way and check up on some brands of either my students or people I know, and I'll find what I feel is a loophole or a problem or a challenge or something they're not looking at from the right way, because you're so deep in your own brain, you don't see stuff from the outside. And I'll reach out to them. If they're local, I'll reach out to them firstly on social or messenger or whatever I've got on them, and go, hey, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Hope you're well. I just saw this. Maybe there's a bit of a tweak here. You can do this, and show them the benefits that's behind that. And now that I've given them something, go, hey, but how about we catch up for a nice cup of coffee and we just chat about what you're up to at the moment. And if they're close enough and local, otherwise I'll just keep having a chat and see how they're going. And what I find out is they absolutely love it, because I come out of nowhere to help them with an issue they didn't know existed. And then all I want from it is, if they're local, is to catch up with coffee and just have a chat. And if not, for me just to find out how they're doing in their lives. And people are more than willing to have that discussion, chat, and conversation. And I find out that it opens up so many doors down the line as well.
Absolutely. And I think like it just comes down to like giving more to people than what you expect to receive. Like, when you give to your clients and when you're focused on the long-term relationships, then your head is going to be in the right space. And that's how relationships are created. And that will pay back tenfold in one way or another.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it leads it so well into the next point that you got, is the power of your brand and reputation.
Yeah, so exactly. It does actually lead into the next point quite well. So I think like a lot of people, they don't quite understand the power of the brand. And then what happens is like the business is easily forgotten, right? So you want your business to be well known, for people to talk about it, and also your reputation. Like, in my experience, I do all my decisions for the benefit of my reputation, not for the benefit of my bottom line. And sometimes it costs me money, like, it definitely does. But again, it wins reputation, it wins long-term relationship, and it just pays back. In terms of the brand, I would just recommend for people to be using the social media platforms that are suitable for them on a consistent basis. I know a lot of business owners, they don't like that. I used to wish that social media didn't exist. Like, I'm such a private person. I'm more of a phone call type of person, or like, get together. Like, I absolutely disliked it, but it's here. And, if you don't embrace it, then it's like, if your business is not online, your business doesn't exist. And so, and another thing that's important is, like, again, like little touches, like, brochures, marketing material, any freebies that you might give, so that you get your name out there. And yeah, the reputation, I think it's so obvious, but like, just have to be really, focused on that. Yeah.
I mean, that is true. I mean, to anyone, again, that's listening or watching, think about when you went into a shop, or you went to a brand, or you went to a restaurant, or takeaways, or you bought a handbag or a pair of shoes, or a guy buying a shirt or stuff like that. Think about when you made those decisions. I'll guarantee you a majority of those, you went to things that you knew about already, or companies or brands already straight off the bat, because to you, that business or place had a brand reputation that related to you. Oh, I went to takeaways because I like McDonald's. Don't shout at me if I say McDonald's, but or I went and bought the clothing, or I went to get jewelry from a specific space, or I went and invested in this sort of deal with this company. A lot of the times, very few times you're doing it cold. You're doing it really warm because you have that brand, that reputation. The reputation of that brand, or you've got that relationship, and that's where what Marie says is so important.
And like, it pays off so much, because we've got, for example, we sometimes don't even advertise in our business. We get 50% of our business through repeat business and referrals, and that's the power of reputation.
Yep.
So, like, it pays off in that way. And there was another point that I was trying to say.
I'd always come back. It'll come back tomorrow morning at 2 a.m. You wake up and go, Lawrence, that's the point. And then, you're not on the podcast anymore. Yeah. So
I just want to say that what's really important when it comes to building your brand and reputation is also how you deal with mistakes. So, like, for example, for me, if mistakes happen, I'm the first person to put my hand up. And and the thing is, when you are willing to compensate for the mistakes and pay for them, and we do, you learn real fast. Yeah, because you don't want to do it. And that's why we hardly ever make them. But, when mistakes happen, I don't make excuses. I apologize, I compensate. And, people are forgiving creatures. Like, people forgive quite easily these days, but you've got to be genuine. So, like, if you make mistakes, like, think about your reputation and think how you're going to handle that mistake and what impact will it have on your reputation.
Yeah, love that. Get into the next one. You talk about robust financial structures.
Yes. So, once again, learned a very hard way. So what I would recommend to people is that putting money aside, like, because economy is very cyclical. Things happen, recessions happen. We had a COVID last year and it's still dragging on. And when you have like a buffer facility, for example, let's have you either have got an overdraft facility or you've got savings, then you're going to be able to afford in business when no one else can afford to be in business. And that's what's going to ensure your survival. In my industry, which is property investment, and we obviously see a lot of developers, oh gosh, people come and go in this industry. And that's because, when the times are good, they make the money. And then what do? They go and spend the money on cars, on, on travel, on lifestyle. They don't put any money aside. And as soon as something that happens in the economy and the sales stop, that is it, you know. Another thing to think about is how you structure your overheads. Like, for example, what I've done for myself is that I've always kept my overheads quite efficient. And I always have got an ability to scale back. So, for example, when the times are good, I can invest money into marketing, and, you know, I can invest money into doing like signage for the office, furniture, like all sorts of crazy things. But if the times get tight, I just scale back because I don't have expensive commitments, you know, that I have to keep paying every month. So like, think about what commitments you're getting when the times are good, and think, can you afford those commitments if times change? One thing that you know, I was once listening to Bill Gates' interview, and he said that when they started making money in Microsoft, while their competitors were buying private jets, they were putting money aside so that if they had no sales for a year, they could pay their expenses. And so that's the thing, like, buy your peace of mind. And the way you buy it is you put the money aside, and this is like how many months it can buy you of like having no business. And when you've got that in place, trust me, you're going to be able to run your business very differently, because you're not going to feel desperate. You're not going to feel fearful. And those are the two things that customers can smell a mile away. And when you're desperate, you know, how do you think you're going to come across to them? Like, will you push them away, or will they want to buy? You know, I, for example, can say, look, you know, I don't have good properties to recommend to you at the moment because there is a shortage. Don't buy anything. Let's just sit and wait. You know, I'm not recommending them something that I don't believe in, because I don't have to. You know, I'm not under that financial pressure. Same thing with tax as well. Like, stay on top of your tax, because if you don't, it will bite you, definitely.
I totally, yeah. This is an interesting one as well, because I run a similar sort of pattern in my brand around the podcast and all that sort of stuff. I've always set out to myself from the beginning that there's standard operating costs that I run in this brand, but anything I do above that, I have to have it correlated to an income that coming in already. I've got to have an income matched to anything I want to spend on straight off the bat. So I won't go and spend a marketing budget if I haven't got that marketing budget covered before day one. And that's sort of something I know a lot of businesses can't necessarily work like that, because they want to do marketing budget to go and sell and then go on there. But my way of always doing that is that I'm always sort of break even on what I'm spending to the left or right, but I'm only spending on the right if the left is coming in first. I'm not doing the other way around, because I've learned before, spending on the right and the left doesn't come in, then what happens? Then you're behind and you can't catch up.
Well, absolutely, especially with marketing. Like, marketing can cost so much money, and it can be such a gamble. Like, you can easily drop, you know, $5,000 on marketing, like I've done in the past. I would advertise in the magazine and not a single inquiry. So yeah, you definitely have to do your like financial analysis and see whether you can afford those expenses or not.
Awesome. Get into the next one. Like I said, it was my favorite at the beginning of the show. It was run your business like you want to sell it or list it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the advice that I learned from one of my favorite business owners in New Zealand. Her name is Diane Foreman. She's now known as Diane Harrington. So that's what she wrote in her book. And I read that book a year before I actually started my business. And that advice was always in the back of my mind. And so, you know, start basically doing things properly from day one. So, for example, you know, some businesses, they need to have a certain level of compliance, right? Make sure you comply, you pay compliance fees, tax again, because, and the other thing is, like, you want to have something to show in the business, because I see so many business owners that have been in business for 20, 30 years, and then at the end they can't sell it.
Yeah.
There is nothing to sell because it's all in their head. They're the ones running the business. And look, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm definitely in the process of building that. Like, I definitely need a bigger team if I want to ever sell, my company, to replace me. But for example, at least, financially again, if you want to, have an investor to come on board, what are you going to show to your investor? You want to show really robust numbers to show them that the business works. So have those systems in place, have very squeaky clean systems. Tax, again, is another thing of that. Have the money put aside. Because imagine if the future buyer comes in and they start doing due diligence and you want a certain price, but then they find, oh, you owe money to RD, you owe money to your landlord, you've got a whole lot of debt, your systems are not clear. Like, think from the future buyer's point of view. How are they going to be assessing your business? You just want to have something to show for it, like by way of assets, money in the bank, goodwill, but goodwill can only go so far because we can't touch goodwill,
I totally get that. The next one you talk about is do the hard thing and do it consistently.
Yes. So for me, I had to learn cold calling. That was a massive challenge in my business, and I had this fear of cold calling. Like, I just I found it really, really difficult. But and the other thing was sales. Actually, I thought I was great at sales. But then I realized, when I had no sales, I realized I must have gifts in that. So I started reading the books and I started implementing the practical advice they were giving. Like, for example, Brian Tracy, in his book about sales, he writes about real estate agents. And he says, on average, a real estate agent only talks to 2 people during the day. Well, no wonder why you don't get a lot of sales. So if you want to have more sales, you've got to, double that number, triple that number. And so I started reading the books. One of the books was also by Grant Cardone, really good book about sales. And I started implementing the advice, the power of follow-up. So yeah, I had to work on that because, well, especially sales, it's so paramount to the success of the business. Like, if you can't sell, another thing that, I had to nail, or I had to crack the formula, was the marketing. So that took me quite a while. Absolutely. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. I have to make, and you probably have that problem. Well, all business owners have, we sometimes have to make very difficult phone calls. Make that phone call as soon as you can. Just get into that habit of getting things sorted straight away. And that will just give you so much power as well to you as a negotiator, as a business owner, or as an advisor for your clients, because everyone else is scared of hard calls. No one wants confrontation, but be that problem solver, because it's the problem solvers that get rewarded the most in different ways.
It is, we're so afraid in different ways to do the hard steps. So it's just by doing that step that other people aren't willing, you're already one step ahead.
Exactly.
Just by making that call, making that decision. I've launched companies and some have been a success, some have been a failure. Having the call to call a business partner overseas and saying, hey, the company we were doing the last 2 years is not a longer success, and having to close it down, and we lost money, and and so forth. It's not easy things to do, but if you do them straight away, you can start moving forward in the right direction. Same with a business, about doing things that's outside your comfort zone and so forth. Not saying doing stuff that you have no expertise in, that you never will, that you should outsource, but talking about doing the hard things that you can be doing in your business, and keep pushing that mold.
You know what else it does for you when you can do the difficult things? is that it wins respect from the right people. It
I, t-
shows that you've got guts.
I totally does, especially, especially, and I do this all the time because I'm horrible in most things, especially when you come out and go to people, go, hey, I know I'm not good at this, but I'm going to give it a go. And then when you get through it, the people are like, hey, how'd that happen? And then it's like, it's the hard work and everything else. And you see a lot of the people, a lot of the youngsters in the mid 20s, sort of early 20s and mid 25s. And they're like, how did they get all that success? And it was because they went and learned and did the hard things consistently, you know, 14 hours a day for 3 or 4 years when they were younger. And they all of a sudden they were going one step ahead every time they were doing something hard that no one else was willing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It just comes down to hard work again.
So get on to your last point, Maria. It says, get rid of what is not working for your business fast.
Yeah, so this also involves getting rid of the wrong people for your business.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a hard one because people, it's one part that we cannot control, right? It's the other person's behavior. But learn to, the way I look at it is that I've got this decision-making muscle in my head, right? And at first, it's really slow, it's really weak. I'm really scared to use it. And then as the time goes by, I've been using the decision-making muscle and, getting better and better with the decisions. So with the systems that don't work for your business, my mistake is that at the beginning, I was doing all the service for free for the first year. And I got taken for a ride, because the clients, they didn't appreciate my time. As soon as I put in a commitment fee that I would actually refund upon success, I saved so much time and I started making a lot of money. So that was good. Another thing with people, I do believe in second chances. But sometimes you just attract people who've got a different direction, who are not into it in the same way as you are. And you've got to part ways with them. You can still do it with grace. I definitely believe dealing with people with grace and class, I think it's so important. But if you keep them on, that can destroy your business. That can kill your business. And you really have to get quite ruthless on that at times and be like, okay, well, do I let this person go or do I lose in my business? What's more important to me? And, you make your decision accordingly. So don't waste time, by doing something that's not working.
Yeah, I mean, we all got to remember that it's business, right? It's not building, it's not relationships that we're trying to build, relationships from a personal point of view. When you're running a business or a brand or anything that sits under there, sometimes we've got that barrier of that it's business, it shouldn't be personal. And there's those hard decisions you've got to make, whether it's a personnel a challenge that you've got to overcome and say they're not working, or situation that's not working. We got to always keep that business hat on your head so that you can make that, because as long as you draw that out, it's just negative effect or impact on your business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Marie, that's, those are amazing 8 steps around the business and success and everything that you've gone through as well. It's, I love talking through those. Was there anything else you want to leave the listeners or the watchers with today before we end off the show?
I just want to go back to my, main point. My main motto is success is built one step at a time. Whether it's success in business or in other areas of your life, you just do it step after step. It's just a combination of those small steps and you'll get there. So, I want people to believe in themselves, keep getting better every day. Don't look too much at what everyone else is doing. Just compete against themselves, and just be better than what you were yesterday.
I know, that's awesome. I love it. So where can anyone find you? Where can they find you on social media, or how can they reach out to you?
So I've got Instagram handle, which is called In My Own Lane, NZ. I also have got a business account, which is Diamond Property Group NZ. So on that account, we share a lot about the property and financial tips, financial coaching, mindset, all that. So those two handles. And then if you reach me on those two handles, there will be links to our website. And yeah, you're more than welcome. People are more than welcome to contact me in direct messaging or give me a shout out.
Awesome. Thanks, Maria. And thanks so much for coming on the show with those points. Like I said, when she spoke to this to me, when we met and stuff, I thought this was amazing. These were great steps, understanding and relatable to most of us. Like when I read it through now, every example, I can go, yep, I did that wrong. I did that wrong. I did that wrong. And it's again, those mistakes we can make. And sometimes we just got to look at a list of a process that someone else has gone through the wall. Like they say, the first person through the wall always gets bloody. Doesn't mean as a second person, you've got to do the same thing, right?
Exactly.
So follow those steps of success and follow those key things to take you to that next level out there. And thank you so much, Marie, for coming on the show again. And to everyone else here that's watching or listening, no matter where you are in the world, one of the biggest things I've been saying the last few months is we live in a time, uncertainty, challenges, heartache. Being South African, while we're recording the show, it's just a few days after the riots back there as well, and a few things all over the world. Please, people, I just ask you, stay safe. Think of each other. Think of the other person that needs help or might need guidance. And for once, let's all stand up and actually show what this human mind and bodies can actually achieve if we work together. Because I'm getting a bit pissed off with how people are actually reacting at the moment. So show love, show respect out there, and maybe we can make a difference. But as always, stay beautiful, stay powerful. Until next time, see ya.